Hello everybody, Prepper003 here today, and today I want to talk to you guys about a little controversial topic, and it's a group threat video as part of my video series for group threats in an SHTF scenario. And this one is going to be hunters. Now I know a lot of us do go out and hunt, so I just want to kind of cut it off there. I'm not talking about any specific person or what you might do. It's just a concept video on something that could happen in the future. Now I'm going to kind of hit them off on a point-by-point basis, but I'm going to start off with the reasons why hunters might be a threat in an SHTF scenario. First off, firearms training. They do know how to use their firearms, and they have firearms capable of filling multiple different roles. They have, for a lot of them, they have a longer range rifle. It might be just a traditional Remington 700 with basically a full scope or a Bushnell scope, or they might have something like this right here that's set up for a very long range precision rifle. They might have a semi-automatic or lever action or pump brush gun, something that they can use for close quarters and for shooting moving targets very quickly. Or they might have something that for most of you, like this right here, have, and that's a AR-15 or a Ruger Mini 14. And what I mean by that is it's a volume rifle, so they now have something that's capable of holding multiple rounds and could be used as a fighting rifle. So, and they are capable of using those at a multitude of different ranges, and they know how to use them at those ranges, and they know how to use their optics that they have. So they know how to zero their optic, they know what their optic is zeroed for, and they're capable of engaging targets from close range to long range depending on the situation. And they also know how to maintain their rifles, so no matter how long, well, depending on how long they have the certain equipment, but they know they're not going to just let their equipment waste away and become old and bad. They're going to try to keep and maintain their rifles and their equipment over that period of time. So it could be snow, mud, rain, sand, water. They'll do their part to make sure that their rifle is still up and running. And even if something happens with the rifle and it goes down, they might have parts for their rifle, or they might be able to take parts from another rifle to work with that rifle. Because I know a lot of hunters that have multiple rifles of the same rifle, just in case something like that happens to where one of the rifles goes down for hunting season, they pick up the same exact rifle ready to go. Now I'm going to hit on to the next part, is that hunters have patience and experience in watching the lay of the land. And what I mean by that is they're going to know and be able to notice over a long period of time, depending on where they're set up, is they'll be able to notice different things. So say you're slowly setting up camp in different areas in their hunting area, if you will, or their area of operations, if you will. They're going to notice that, oh, so there's more footprints and there's areas of travel that I haven't been traveling. And they're going to be able to slowly start tracking and eventually find you. And if they view you as a threat, or they want your gear that you have on you for your bug out bag or whatever you have on you, they might find you as a threat, or they might want those things that you have and they might take you out without you even noticing because of their firearms training. So, and another thing is that they do, like with that patience, they also do have the capability of setting up ground blinds, tree stands, and watching over a very large area. Like say it might be an open field, and you make the stupid, well, it might not be stupid to you, but you might make the mistake of going and walking straight across this very large open field. Now you might have to cross that field or that open area, but you're crossing an open area, now you're right there in their target. And like a lot of hunters go out west, there are hunters that are capable of easily making that shot in that long maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 yards away. They're able to make that shot count, which is one thing you have to be aware of, is that hunters know how to make their rounds count whenever they need to. Now, and I'm trying to keep the video short for you guys, so I'm just trying to hit off some of the ideas that I have on why they would be a threat. So my next one is going to be, they do have predetermined areas for like a bug out scenario, and that might be like their hunting cabin or their second living area where they go hunt, their hunting land, if you will. And that could be their off-the-grid area. And you might be living in the same area, and they're slowly expanding their area of operations, if you will, for their hunting territory. and all of a sudden now you're hunting, maybe your hunting territory that you have intersects with theirs, and sure, that might be your land on paper, but now they're hunting in it. And if they see that you're hunting their game, and I know that you've seen a lot of people and a lot of hunters just in standard hunting season that can get really hot and bothered over you hunting in the same area. Like, you might have your tree stand set up, and then a couple of weeks later he puts his tree stand up almost within 100 yards of each other, and now he's coming off on you or taking down your tree stand or doing other stuff. It has happened. We all hate to admit it, but it does happen, because he sees that you're trying to take his area and his spot that he's that he's pretty much laid stake to. And it kind of happens. I'm not going to get into it too much, but it does happen. And what happens with that is that you can shoot, for example, you might shoot a deer and wound it, and it travels over into his area, and he sees this wounded deer, and he starts to clean it, clean it and everything else, and all of a sudden he sees you coming out of the woods, and he sees that as his game now. So you come up and you have your rifle and everything. Now he sees you as a threat, because now that's food that he could bring to his family. Even though he didn't shoot it, it's now an opportunity for him. And you see stuff like that happen even in today in your basic hunting season, where you might see you might shoot and wound a real nice 10, 15 point buck. I'm just going to throw out some random numbers there, and then you see these other guys, they fire a finishing round, and now you guys are fighting over who got that kill. And he that deer might have been dead, but he fires another round at it just to say, oh yeah, that's my second round, I put the deer down. So just kind of saying that that's something that can't happen. And I'm going on to the next thing is that they know how to live off the land for the most part. And what I mean by that is that a lot of hunters also fish, they also trap, and they have multiple ways of bringing food into their family, so they're going to be able to survive for a longer period of time, which is why I see them as being more of a threat, is that they're going to be able to last much longer, and they're going to be able to slowly build out their hunting area and their area of operations, if you will, into that type of situation for an SHTF scenario, so to where they're going to be laying traps, they're going to be hunting, and it might be going way close to your bug out location. And if that happens, I'll say it again, they can see you as a threat, and they might take you out to prevent you from taking what they perceive as their game. So, and they're going to be much more fit and be capable of being able to hunt and be able to be a threat to you, because they're going to be more fit. They're going to be non-delirious. They're going to be well fed and well taken care of. And another thing, and this is one of the big things that I feel that they have for them being a threat, is that they have friends and family that they can work with and build as a team. And I know that a lot of us rely on our families for our bug out and our survival in a long-term situation for an SHTF, but they do too. And for the most part, their families are hunters, or at least trained in firearms usage. And sure, they might not have a tactical standpoint, if you will, as being like military trained or what have you. Some might, who knows? I'm just trying to kind of broad stroke here again. But sure enough, they could slowly build up to their own. They have security details. They might start doing patrols and start doing deer drives and everything else. And they come across your bug out location or where you're camped out in the woods. All of a sudden, they're going to now go from hunting the wild game to hunting you to make sure that you're either drive you off of their land and their hunting territory. That's the best case scenario if you're outnumbered, and because most of the part we want to try to lay low. We don't want conflict, most of us anyways. So that's just the thing is that it can easily turn around and they can now start becoming after you in that situation. They have communication. They know how to work as a team, especially when they've done it in the past for hunting deer or whatever other game is out there. And they have the different types of firearms capable of having different roles. You might have a couple long-range guys, a couple of guys with ARs working as their armed security and everything else. So it can happen, and they can have themselves set up into a very hardened position. And if you're just moving across and moving from your home to your bug out location, you come across area and you try to move through it and they see you as crossing their territory, they could very well put you down and take what you have. Now, I'm going to touch on it very lightly, but the one thing that could happen in a very long-term situation, and I'm not going to go over like a whole scenario base here just to save on time, and because I know you guys don't want to hear me ramble on, but they could very well resort to cannibalism after the food and wild game is exhausted. So that's just one thing you want to be aware of, is that they might go from hunting wild game to hunting their fellow man. So, and I'm not going to delve too much into that because that's a whole different video in of itself, as cannibalism. But it can happen, and they have the tools and the knowledge to lay down larger traps, to look for basic areas of travel. They might set up drop-all traps or claw traps and other type of things in your standard paths that you would cross, and sure, you'll be watching out for it, but hunters are not going to be very open about it. They're not going to have like just a nice rope sitting there for you to notice. They're going to camouflage their traps very well. And this goes back to their ability with patience and knowing their lay of the land. They'll be able to tell, and this is kind of getting, like I said, off into almost a specific scenario, but they will be able to track, they will be able to hear and watch and slow and pretty much observe that area over a long period of time. So it might be a week, they might not see nothing, and you might think that it's safe if you haven't walked and you haven't seen them, but you might have had that one time where you made a mistake and you're walking across that trail and they see you. All it takes is one round and you're down. Even if you're injured, they'll be able to track you. So that's just one thing to be aware of into it, is that cannibalism could happen, and just that ability of them being able to lay down a trap, lay down that security perimeter, and be able to track you after they've injured you is another possibility too. If they just want to make sure that you're dead and you're not a threat to them or their families. So that's I just wanted to kind of touch on it very quickly there. I didn't want to get too much into it. So thanks for watching. I want to know your guys' opinions on hunters in an SHTF scenario, if you really perceive them as a threat. I do in my area, because I'm in a large open farmland. There is a lot of open areas, and somebody could see me and think that I'm a threat to them, or I'm crossing onto their territory or onto their property, because there's no well-observed property lines. So they might start firing long-range shots at me, and all it takes is one shot, and one shot is all that really needs, and because you're not going to have a hospital to go to after it happens, for the most part. So, like I said, that's just I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are, what you think about it. If you think hunters are more of a pro on the board rather than being a con as far as threats go. I know we would all like to develop a community, but depending on the situation, it might not work so well, especially with humans' history when it comes to tribalism and working together. We've all seen how well humans, even in times of crisis, work together. So New Orleans is a thing that I'd like to point out very well. So thank you. I really appreciate it. Like I said, put down your opinion down in the comment section below on what you think about it. So I really appreciate you guys watching.